The island was a secret. A green jewel in an endless blue. No claws. No fear. No flight. Just a bird that had never learned to run from men. They called it Dodo. A name whispered like a myth. Not brutal. Not violent. Vulnerable. Almost tame. Imagine stepping off a small wooden boat. The shoreline smells of salt and guava. A low thud of heavy bodies on soft earth. Yellow legs. A hooked beak. Eyes that look like old coins. The sailors laughed. They thought the bird would be easy meat. They did not know they were meeting the last of something ancient. A single island. A single fate. The world would soon realize what was lost. But not yet. A shadow moves through tamarind and ebony. A mother, slow, deliberate, pecks for fallen fruit. She tilts her head. She does not fly. She has no reason to. For thousands of years she had no predator but the wind. Then the sea carried men. And with men came nets, rats, pigs, and the bright, careless appetite of colonists. In the quiet between waves, history changes. A life disappears. And we are left asking, how did we let it happen? Name: Dodo. Scientific name: Rhapis cucullatus. A pigeon gone giant. Stocky. Grounded. Strange and oddly elegant. Think 3 feet tall. Thick neck. A robust, downward curved beak, powerful and oddly shaped. Small wing stumps. A tuft of curled white feathers at the tail. Plumage described in sources as grayish-brown. Not the ridiculous fat caricature paintings later made it seem. Taxonomy: a member of columbiforms, the pigeon and dove family. Its closest living relative today is the Nicobar pigeon and other large, ground-dwelling pigeons in the Indian Ocean region. Genetic and morphological studies place it squarely in that family. Habitat: Mauritius. A volcanic island east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. The dodo lived in lowland forests, coastal scrub, and near freshwater swamps. It was an island specialist, a creature shaped by isolation. Discovery history: European sailors first reliably recorded the bird in the late 16th century. Portuguese and Dutch mariners noted flightless birds on Mauritius from about the early 1500s, with more detailed Dutch records by 1598. Sketches and later paintings, some inaccurate, helped form the image that stuck in the European imagination. Appearance in life: heavier bodied than most pigeons, with strong, muscular legs and a beak adapted for crushing seeds and fruit. Contemporary descriptions vary, sailors described colors differently, but modern anatomy and subfossil remains suggest a robust, well-adapted ground forager. Extinction window: the species disappeared in the late 17th century. Traditional accounts point to the last widely accepted sighting being in 1662 and a commonly cited extinction year of 1681. Modern analyses show ambiguity and debate, but the loss occurred in that late 1600s window. The dodo moved like a creature that had time. Slow. Purposeful. Unhurried. Daily life was measured by fruiting seasons. The island offered palms, nuts, fallen fruit, pods, roots, and possibly shellfish along shores. A rediscovered 1631 Dutch letter and later ecological research suggest a varied, opportunistic diet: fallen fruit, seeds, bulbs, and perhaps crabs and mollusks. They were not specialized predators, they were foragers. They fed on the forest floor. They used that heavy beak to manipulate and crush. They could swallow large seeds that other island animals could not. They were ecosystem engineers in miniature, spreading seeds, cracking hard shells, stirring leaf litter. Movement: flightless. Wings small, not used for flight but probably useful for balance and courtship. Legs thick and capable, built to walk across soft soils, push through underbrush, and stand their ground. Bone studies show fast early growth in chicks, supporting a life history tuned for seasonal stress and quick maturation. Temperament: contemporary observers describe them as tame or naive toward humans. Not aggressive by nature. Not fearful. That trait made them tragically easy prey. But tame should not be confused with weak. The dodo was well-muscled and adapted to survive in an island without mammalian predators for millennia. Social structure: sparse records, but bone assemblages and comparisons with related pigeons hint at small family groups rather than vast flocks. Breeding may have been seasonal, possibly timed to fruiting cycles. Fat cycles followed by leaner months suggest a rhythm to life that matched Mauritius's wet and dry seasons. A slow, steady life. A cautious investment in the next generation. Eggs: early reports and later inferences from bones and closely related species indicate a low clutch size, possibly 1 egg per breeding attempt. That single egg strategy works on predator-free islands, but it's fragile once new predators arrive. Mating, likely seasonal, just after the fruiting that fattens adults. Chicks likely hatched in late winter or early spring, August to Sep in the southern hemisphere context, grew quickly and reached near adult robustness before cyclone season, an adaptation to survive yearly weather extremes. Bone histology supports fast juvenile growth. Parenting, we imagine careful, deliberate parents. One egg, likely substantial parental investment. Ground nests, hidden among undergrowth. Vulnerable eggs. Vulnerable chicks. Lifespan, unknown precisely, but bone studies and life history comparisons suggest they were not unusually long-lived for a large pigeon, perhaps a decade or so in the wild under stable conditions. But fragile life history traits mean population recovery after losses would be slow. The dodo shared Mauritius with the odd and the endemic. Reptiles. Birds. Giant tortoises. A web of island life. Predators? For millennia, almost none. No native mammalian predators hunted adult dodos. That absence shaped their behavior. No need to fly, no terror of feet. They evolved for an island of peace. Competitors, giant tortoises ate many of the same fallen fruits. But both animals coexisted in a balanced, seasonal dance. Different mouths, different niches. The dodo filled a pigeon-shaped role, seed disperser and consumer of certain palm fruits that others would not process. Introduced species changed everything. Rats, pigs, monkeys, dogs, and cats arrived on European ships. They ate eggs, raided nests, dug up young chicks, and competed for food. The very animals that traveled with colonists attacked the weak link in the dodo's life cycle, its ground nest and slow reproduction. Parasites and disease? Hard to document historically. But contact with human-brought animals and livestock would have raised exposure to novel pathogens, stresses any island specialist could not easily survive. Ecological role, seed dispersal, breaking open tough fruits, and shaping the forest floor. In losing the dodo, Mauritius lost a brushstroke in a complex painting, an ecological role that changed the island's vegetation patterns in ways we still study today. An island paradise with soft underbelly. Perfection in isolation becomes a liability when the sea brings change. Climate and environment. Cyclones hammered Mauritius with regularity. Dodos evolved to time breeding around seasons and to fatten and molt in cycles that matched fruit availability. But environmental variability alone likely did not doom them. It made their population more sensitive to new pressures. Human pressures. Sailors and settlers hunted for meat and curiosity. Dodo meat appeared on ship logs and provisioning lists. The birds were easy to catch. Their tameness was fatal. Europeans cut forests for settlements and introduced livestock that cleared undergrowth, destroying nesting sites and food patches. Introduced mammals, arguably the single biggest blow. Pigs rooted up nests. Rats and monkeys raided eggs. Dogs killed chicks. The arrival of these species after the first European landings created a cascade of predation that the dodo's life history could not withstand. Population fragility, only one egg per attempt. Low reproductive rate. Slow recovery from losses. Each new predator, each clearing of forest, each hunting party shaved away at the population until numbers could no longer sustain a viable breeding population. Compounding factors, intermittent human settlement patterns meant some periods of intense pressure and some lulls, but even short, intense bouts of predation during critical breeding years could collapse populations. Several historical analyses suggest feral pigs and introduced species during certain settlement gaps were decisive. This is where the facts and the myths tangle. Timeline, simplified. Early sightings. Portuguese and early European sailors noted flightless birds on Mauritius from the 1500s onward. Dutch records more detailed from 1598. 1638 to 1662, eyewitness accounts continue, though sparse. A widely quoted last widely accepted sighting is 1662 based on certain accounts. 1681, many popular sources, including long-standing references like Encyclopaedia Britannica, list extinction by 1681, the year often cited as the date by which the species had vanished from Mauritius. Later analyses, statistical and archival studies suggest uncertainty. Reports after 1662 might have misidentified other birds, like the red rail, as dodo, and some scholars propose later possible extinction estimates into the 1690s or slightly beyond, though records after 1662 are disputed. Primary causes, how it really happened. Introduced predators and nest raiders, rats, pigs, monkeys. They ate eggs and chicks. Without replacements, every unsuccessful breeding year nudged the population closer to collapse. Habitat destruction, clearing for settlements and livestock reduced nesting areas and food resources. Hunting by humans, opportunistic hunting by sailors and settlers provided direct mortality. While hunting alone might not have caused extinction quickly, combined with nest predation and habitat loss it was decisive. Small clutch size and slow recovery, biological traits that made any sustained pressure catastrophic. A final, tragic image, small groups of birds retreating from the newly opened clearings. A few nests disturbed by pigs. A handful of birds taken on a provisioning run. Men leaving with casks and gunpowder and the bones of an animal the world would soon relegate to myth. But the last days are messy and debated, which is why historians and biologists still argue about the precise last dodo moment. The forest grows quieter. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, like a breath being held for too long. By the mid-1600s, the people who lived on Mauritius rarely mentioned the dodo at all. Not because it was common, but because it was fading into the background like a rumor no one believed anymore. Imagine this moment. A Dutch settler walks through the coastal forest, cutting through thick stands of ebony trees now felled for timber, for ship repair, for fueling the ambitions of a growing colony. Behind him trail two pigs, feral and hungry. Their snouts hit the ground. Dirt sprays. Something breaks. A nest. A single egg. The settler doesn't notice. He keeps walking. But the dodo mother does. She arrives moments later, a heavy, urgent stride shaking the soft earth. She finds only broken shell, sticky yolk, and rooting marks the shape of a mouth that did not belong here 50 years ago. She turns in circles, confused, emitting low grunts, the kind of sound island animals make when their world is too simple to accommodate grief. But grief comes anyway. 1662, the last widely accepted sighting. A Dutch sailor named Volker te Wertz, traveling on the ship Arnhem, writes of a strange bird seen on a small islet near Mauritius. Big, flightless, curious, approaching sailors without hesitation. Many historians consider this the last reliable sighting of a living dodo. He wrote that the birds were not afraid and came close enough to touch. It was not innocence. It was evolution. Thousands of years without predators had carved trust into their bones. But trust is deadly when the world changes faster than nature can adapt. What those last birds likely saw. Picture Mauritius in the 1660s. Forest patches replaced by cattle farms. Goats eating saplings that once shaded dodo nests. Ebony trees cut so fast that the island's hills look wounded. Rats scurrying through leaf litter at dusk, smelling for eggs. Monkeys, brought from Asia, leaping branch to branch, raiding anything they could crack open. The dodo's world shrank. Food grew scarce. Breeding grew dangerous. Chicks seldom survived more than a few days. And adult birds? They were still hunted. Still mocked. Still taken aboard ships as curiosities, mascots, or meat for long voyages. Imagine a mother dodo watching her chick stagger behind her, soft gray fuzz, 2 weeks old, legs too long for its body. She guides it toward the shade of a tambalacock tree. A rat watches from the roots. A monkey watches from the branches. A dog, belonging to a nearby settler, sniffs the air. This is how extinction looks in real time. Not a tragedy in a single moment, but pressure from all sides. A tightening noose. The final individuals. We cannot name the last dodo. We cannot point to a date on the calendar. But science gives us a picture. By the late 1600s, the population was likely reduced to a handful of scattered individuals, hiding in pockets of forest untouched by settlers. Solitary birds. Or pairs that no longer found each other in time for breeding season. A male calling into an empty forest. A female searching for fruit in a clearing where fruit no longer grows. One egg laid. One egg eaten. Again and again. Once a species reaches ecological silence, recovery becomes impossible. We do not know who she was, or he, or how long they lived after the last recorded sighting. But imagine this. A lone dodo moves through a thinning forest. Its steps are heavy, but not tired. Just deliberate. The air smells different now, smoke from settlers clearing land. The breeze carries unfamiliar scents, goats, cattle, cooking fires. The bird finds a patch of fallen fruit. It eats slowly, savoring each bite. Wind stirs the feathers on its back. For a moment, everything feels normal, like the island it evolved for still exists. Then a sound. A crack of a branch. A dog's pant. Soft, rhythmic. Behind it, the dodo freezes. It turns slightly, wings raised just a little for balance, a gesture that once signaled courtship or territorial warning, not terror. The dog lunges. And that moment, lost to history, may have ended an entire lineage stretching back millions of years. Not with a scream. Not with a battle. But with confusion, a creature extinct long before it understood what extinction meant. 1681, the year marked in human memory. Though the last accepted sighting was in 1662, the commonly cited extinction year is 1681, the date when the Dutch records fall silent and the species is considered gone by the world that erased it. This is the year you see in textbooks, on documentaries, on conservation lists. The year the world learned the price of arrival. But the forest likely fell quiet long before that. Perhaps by the mid-1670s. Perhaps even sooner. A silence no one noticed. A silence no one recorded. A silence that should have shaken the earth. Why this extinction still hurts. The dodo did not die because it was stupid, or slow, or badly designed. It died because we arrived unannounced, bringing animals and appetites the island had never known. It died because evolution moves slowly, and colonization moves fast. It died because a bird that trusted too easily met a species that took too quickly. And today? The world uses dodo as an insult. A punchline. A joke about stupidity. But the real stupidity was ours. Because we destroyed a creature that had survived everything nature threw at it. Cyclones, droughts, volcanic history, only to fall within a century of human contact. That's the tragedy. Not just that the dodo vanished, but that it vanished without ever understanding why. What if the story didn't have to end this way? What if, in those early years of human arrival, anyone, stopped and looked at the bird not as meat, not as curiosity, not as inconvenience, but as a life uniquely shaped by millions of years of evolution? What if the first sailors understood what stood before them? Because the truth is brutal. The dodo was unbelievably easy to save. Not because it was strong. Not because it was adaptable. But because the threats that killed it were simple and preventable if anyone cared. Let's walk through the possibilities, the alternate paths history never took. 1. Protecting the forest. The ebony forests of Mauritius were slashed apart for timber. Settlements crept inward like a slow-burning fuse. Every tree cut was one less nesting spot. One less fruiting site. One less sanctuary. But imagine this. A small regulation. A protected area. A forest zone marked off limits. A single valley left untouched, perhaps the same valley where the last birds silently wandered. That could have been enough to hold a breeding population. One valley. One law. One moment of foresight. But no such law existed. Not yet. Not there. 2. The introduced animals, the real killers. Rats. Pigs. Dogs. Monkeys. Cats. They did the most damage. Not sailors with clubs, though sailors played their part. It was the animals on the ships that spilled into the forests and turned the island into a battlefield. The dodo was never built to survive. How simple would it have been to save them? Control the rats. Pen the pigs. Restrict dogs from nesting grounds. Limit monkey populations introduced for food and trade. Even primitive 17th century colonies understood animal management. But these steps weren't taken. Because no one imagined anything could go extinct. The concept barely existed. Island ecosystems were seen as infinite. But they weren't. And the dodo paid the price. 3. Raising them in captivity. Here's a heartbreaking truth. The dodo did survive in captivity. 4 short periods. On ships. In makeshift pens. In households as curiosities. Had someone recognized the bird's fragility? Had someone realized the danger of predators? Had someone tried to breed them intentionally? The species could have been saved. A few pairs. A small protected space. A simple breeding program. Even with 1600s technology and knowledge, it was possible. But again, no one tried. The world hadn't yet learned the idea of conservation. 4. Education, the tool that didn't exist. Imagine telling sailors, these birds exist only on this island. If they're wiped out here, they're gone forever. Would that have changed anything? Would someone have hesitated before cracking an egg? Would someone have stopped a dog from running loose? Would someone have paused before clearing more forest? Maybe. Maybe not. But no one said those words. Because no one knew. The idea of a species as something fragile, finite, and worthy of protection was barely forming in human thought. 5. Modern conservation would have saved them instantly. Today, we save birds far more fragile than the dodo every year. Kiwi. California condor, kakapo, Mauritius kestrel, saved on the very same island where the dodo fell. If the dodo's decline happened now, we would intervene. We would raise chicks by hand. We would eradicate invasive predators. We would restore forests. We would track GPS-tagged adults. We would keep the species alive. But the dodo went extinct before we learned to protect what we love. Or even before we learned to love what we destroy. Could we have saved the dodo? Yes. Easily. Shamefully easily. But no one did. Because no one saw extinction coming. Not until the bird was already gone. And so chapter 8 ends with a truth that echoes across every endangered species today. We cannot save what we refuse to see. And we cannot see what we never learned to value. The island is quiet now. Mauritius still glows under the tropical sun. Still holds forests that whisper in the wind. Still grows the same fruit the dodo once loved. Still echoes with the calls of pigeons, cousins of the bird we lost. But the dodo itself? Gone. Yet, not forgotten. In museums across the world, plaster reconstructions stare back with glass eyes. Paintings show strange, almost comical proportions, a distorted legacy shaped by sailors who didn't care enough to draw the truth. But if you could go deeper, into the Mer Auxiliary Song's marsh, you would find bones. Real bones. Fossil fragments that tell a very different story. A story of a bird that wasn't clumsy, wasn't stupid, wasn't fat or foolish or badly made. A bird perfectly adapted to its world. A bird that dominated its niche for thousands of years. A bird that lived slowly, peacefully, confidently, until a new predator arrived. Us. But this isn't just a story of the past. Every ecosystem holds a dodo waiting to happen. Every island, every forest, every coast. Species balanced on the edge of survival, not because they are weak, but because the world around them changes faster than evolution can respond. We look back now and ask, how could an entire species vanish so quickly? But the real question is, which species will vanish next? The dodo is a warning, a symbol, a reminder stitched into the skin of history. Once something is gone, it is gone forever. And yet, the legacy of the dodo is not only tragedy, it is also the birth of awareness, the spark of global conservation. The moment humanity realized that nature is not endless, and extinction is not myth. Today, when we protect a rare bird, when we preserve habitat, when we restore a broken forest, when we fight for species no one has ever heard of, we are honoring the bird we lost, the one we should have saved, the one whose silence still echoes across Mauritius and across the conscience of the world. The dodo is gone, but its message lives. If we listen. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, then join our journey. Subscribe, not just for more stories, but to keep the memory of lost creatures alive. To learn from them. To honor them. To make sure we never repeat the mistakes that silenced the dodo. Like this video if you believe every extinct animal has a story worth telling. Comment and tell me, which vanished species should we bring back to life next, through story? Your voice guides the next chapter.